The transport ship shuddered as it docked with Kepler Station. Through the small window, Kim Tae-ho watched the massive space station slowly rotate against the orange glow of Titan 7. The gas giant looked peaceful from here, nothing like the deadly world he had left behind. Tae-ho picked up his single bag and walked toward the exit. Other new cadets pushed past him, talking excitedly about their first day at the most famous military academy in the galaxy. Most of them looked soft and clean. Their clothes were expensive, and their hands had never held a real weapon. The docking. Bay doors opened with a loud hiss. Cool, recycled air hit his face. Tae-ho stepped onto Kepler Station for the first time. The ceiling stretched high above him, covered with moving lights and displays showing information in dozens of alien languages. Hundreds of creatures moved through the space, some walking on two legs like humans, others crawling or floating. "Welcome to Kepler Station Military Academy," announced a voice from hidden speakers. "All new cadets report to Processing Center 7. Tae-ho followed the crowd down a wide corridor. The walls were covered with pictures of famous graduates, most of them aliens with names he could not pronounce. Only a few humans appeared in the photos, and they were placed in the back. Ruse. At the processing center, a tall blue alien with 4 arms checked names on a glowing tablet. When Tae-ho reached the front of the line, the alien looked him up and down with large yellow eyes. "Kim Tae-ho from Hadron Prime," Tae-ho said. The alien's eyes widened slightly. "Hadron Prime? That death world?" It made some notes on the tablet. "You will be in Dormitory Block C, Room 847. Try not to die in your first week, human." Other aliens in line laughed. Tae-ho said nothing and took his room assignment card. Block C was deeper inside the station, past training rooms and lecture halls. The gravity here felt light compared to Hadron Prime. Tae-ho could probably jump 3 times higher than normal, but he kept his steps careful and measured. No need to show off yet. Room 847 was small with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a shared bathroom. One bed already had belongings on it. His roommate had not arrived yet. Tae-ho put his bag on the empty bed and looked out the window. Far below he could see the training grounds where cadets practiced combat exercises. Most of them moved slowly and carefully like they were afraid of getting hurt. "You must be my new roommate." Tae-ho turned around. A young human man stood in the doorway, carrying books and looking nervous. He was thin and pale, with soft hands and perfectly clean clothes. "I am Yoon Min-ho," the young man said. "I am from New Seoul Colony. Where are you from?" "Hadron Prime," Tae-ho replied. Min-ho dropped his books. "Hadron Prime? The planet where giant monsters live? Where the storms can melt metal? Why would anyone choose to go there? My family did not choose," Tae-ho said quietly. "We were sent there when I was 5 years old. My father was a mining engineer." Min-ho picked up his books with shaking hands. "I heard that place kills most people who try to live there. How did you survive?" "You learn fast or you die fast," Tae-ho said. He sat on his bed and began unpacking his few belongings. Min-ho watched him with wide eyes. "You look different from other humans. Bigger. Stronger." This was true. Tae-ho was 19 years old but looked older. His muscles were thick and hard from years of fighting for survival. Scars crossed his arms and hands from battles with creatures that could tear apart starships. His eyes held a cold, steady look that made other people nervous. "Listen," Min-ho said, sitting on his own bed. "I need to warn you about this place. It is not like the advertisements say. Humans are not welcome here." "What do you mean?" Min-ho looked around nervously, then moved closer. "There are 7 aliens who control everything here. They call themselves the Superior 7. They think humans are weak and stupid. They make life very hard for human cadets." "What do they do?" "They cause accidents during training. They sabotage our equipment. They hurt humans and make it look like mistakes." Min-ho's voice dropped to a whisper. "Last month, a human cadet named Kim Sung-min was found in the medical bay with 3 broken ribs. The alien said he fell during a training exercise." Tae-ho said nothing. On Hadron Prime, bullies usually ended up as food for the Shadow Wolves. Their leader is called Veltar, Minho continued. He is a Krillian, very tall with natural armor and claws like knives. The others are just as dangerous. They have been here for years and know how to hurt people without getting caught. Why do the teachers allow this? Most of the teachers are aliens too. They think humans joined the galactic community too recently. They believe we need to prove ourselves worthy. Minho shook his head sadly. But how can we prove anything when they make sure we fail? Before Taiho could answer, loud voices echoed from the hallway outside their room. Through the open door, they could see a crowd gathering around something. What is happening? Minho asked. They walked to the doorway and looked out. In the middle of the hallway stood 7 alien cadets, all of them tall and strong-looking. The one in the center had dark gray skin covered with natural armor plates. Sharp black claws extended from his fingers. This had to be Veltar. Around them, other cadets pressed against the walls trying to stay out of the way. Most looked frightened. A few human cadets stood together in one corner, their faces pale and worried. "Attention, new arrivals," Veltar said in a deep, rough voice. "I am here to explain how things work at Kepler Station. This academy trains the best warriors in the galaxy. Only the strong survive here." His yellow eyes scanned the crowd and stopped when they found the human cadets. "Some species think they belong here just because they have joined the galactic community," he continued. "But joining and belonging are different things. Humans are soft creatures from a soft world. You break easily." One of his companions, a creature covered in stone-like skin, laughed loudly. "Perhaps they should return to their little farms and leave war to real warriors." "We shall see," Veltar said. His claws clicked together as he made a fist. "Training begins tomorrow. I look forward to teaching you the difference between strength and weakness." The 7 aliens walked away down the hall, their heavy footsteps echoing off the walls. The other cadets slowly began to move again, but the humans remained pressed. Against the corner, whispering among themselves, Minho grabbed Taiho's arm. "See what I mean? They do this every semester. They pick out the human cadets and make their lives terrible." Taiho watched the aliens disappear around a corner. They moved like predators, confident and cruel, but they also moved like creatures who had never faced anything that could truly hurt them. On Hadron Prime, things that acted like that usually learned better very quickly. "We should be careful," Minho said. "Maybe if we stay quiet and do not cause trouble, they will leave us alone." Taiho looked at his roommate's frightened face. Minho was a good person, but he came from a safe world where the biggest danger was probably a broken transport schedule. "Maybe," Taiho said quietly. But deep inside, he doubted it. Bullies were the same everywhere in the galaxy. They picked on those who seemed weak and kept pushing until someone pushed back. The question was whether these aliens had ever met someone who knew how to push back properly. Outside their window, the training grounds glowed under artificial lights as evening approached. Tomorrow, Taiho would begin his real education at Kepler Station, and Veltar would begin learning about humans from Hadron Prime. Training began at dawn the next morning. Taiho followed the other cadets to the main training hall, a huge space with different sections for combat practice, weapon training, and physical fitness tests. Commander Choi Hyun-sik stood at the front of the room. He was the only human instructor at the academy, a man in his 40s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind him stood 3 alien instructors, all of them tall and imposing. "Welcome to your first day of real training, Commander," Choi announced. "Today we will test your basic abilities, combat simulation, survival skills, and physical fitness. Your scores will determine your class assignments." The cadets split into groups. Taiho found himself assigned to Combat Group 7, along with Minho and 12 other students. Half of them were human, the rest were from different alien species. Their first test was hand-to-hand combat in a holographic simulation room. Each cadet would face a series of virtual enemies that became progressively more difficult. The room could create any environment and any type of opponent. Minho went first. He faced 3 basic humanoid opponents in a simple forest setting. He managed to defeat 2 of them before the third one knocked him down. His score appeared on a wall display, 67 out of 100. Other cadets took their turns. Most scored between 50 and 75. The alien students generally perform better than the humans, though not by much. Kim Tae-ho called the testing supervisor, an alien with blue skin and tentacles for arms. Tae-ho stepped into the simulation room. The walls around him disappeared, replaced by a rocky landscape under a red sky. 6 armed opponents materialized in front of him, each one larger and more dangerous looking than the practice enemies the others had faced. "Wait," said the supervisor, checking his tablet. "There seems to be an error in the programming. You are getting the advanced level test by mistake." "The program is correct," said a familiar voice from the observation area. Tae-ho looked up and saw Veltar watching from behind the safety glass. The Krillion's yellow eyes gleamed with malicious pleasure. "I requested a more challenging test for the human from the Death World," Veltar continued. "Surely someone from such a dangerous planet can handle a little extra difficulty." The supervisor looked uncertain but nodded. "Very well. Begin simulation." The 6 opponents rushed at Tae-ho from different directions. They moved fast and coordinated their attacks well. But to Tae-ho, they seemed to move in slow motion. On Hadron Prime, he had fought shadow wolves that could run faster than ground vehicles. He had battled acid spiders that attacked in swarms of 50 or more. He had survived encounters with crystal bears whose claws could cut through solid rock. These simulation enemies were nothing. Tae-ho moved between them like water flowing around stones. His strikes were precise and devastating. Within 30 seconds, all 6 opponents lay motionless on the ground. The simulation ended. The rocky landscape faded back into gray walls. Silence filled the observation room. The score display flickered several times before showing 98 out of 100. "Impossible," whispered one of the alien cadets. Commander Choi leaned forward, his eyes wide with surprise. Even the alien instructors looked shocked. Nobody had ever scored that high on the advanced combat test, especially not in 30 seconds. Veltar's expression had changed from smug satisfaction to cold anger. The testing continued with survival skills and physical fitness. Tae-ho broke the academy record in every category. His reflexes were faster than anything they had measured before. His strength scores made the equipment operators check their machines for malfunctions. During the survival test, he was placed in a simulation of a hostile alien jungle filled with dangerous creatures and environmental hazards. Other cadets typically took 2 hours to complete the course. Tae-ho finished in 23 minutes. After training ended, Min-ho found Tae-ho in the cafeteria. "Everyone is talking about your test scores," Min-ho said excitedly. "You broke 5 academy records in one day. I heard some of the alien instructors saying they have never seen anything like it." "It was just training," Tae-ho replied quietly. "Just training? You made those advanced opponents look like children playing games." Min-ho sat down across from him. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "Hadron Prime does not give you a choice," Tae-ho explained. "You fight well or you die. I have been fighting since I was 6 years old." Their conversation was interrupted by approaching footsteps. Tae-ho looked up to see instructor Nam Da-eun walking toward their table. She was a human woman in her 30s with short black hair and the confident posture of someone who had seen real combat. "Cadet Kim," she said, "I need to speak with you privately." They walked to an empty classroom where instructor Nam closed the door and activated a privacy screen. "I was watching your performance today," she said. "Those scores are incredible, but they have also made you a target." "I understand. Do you?" "Veltar and his group have controlled this academy for 3 years. They use fear and intimidation to keep other species in line, especially humans. Your success today has threatened their position." Instructor Nam moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I have been documenting incidents involving human cadets for months. Equipment failures, training accidents, medical emergencies that seem suspicious. The alien faculty ignores my reports. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you are different from the other human cadets. Your background has prepared you for what they will try to do." She handed him a small device. "This is a personal recorder. Keep it hidden." If anything happens to you, it might provide evidence. That evening, things began to go wrong. During dinner, Taeho's food synthesizer malfunctioned, producing a meal that smelled like rotting meat. The technician who came to fix it claimed the malfunction was random, but Taeho noticed Veltar watching from across the cafeteria. Later, in the dormitory shower facility, the water temperature suddenly spiked to dangerous levels while Taeho was washing. He jumped out just before the scalding water could burn his skin. The maintenance crew said it was a pressure system error. At midnight, the environmental controls in room 847 failed. The temperature dropped to freezing while toxic gas began seeping through the air vents. Minho woke up choking and gasping. Taeho had to break the window seal to let in fresh air from the corridor. "This is not coincidence," Minho said the next morning, his voice hoarse from the gas exposure. "They are trying to hurt you. I know. What are you going to do?" Taeho looked out their repaired window at the training grounds below. Cadets were already gathering for the morning session. He could see Veltar and his 6 companions standing together, talking and pointing up at the dormitory windows. "For now, nothing," Taeho said. "Let them think their tricks are working." But privately, he was getting tired of their games. On Hadron Prime, creatures that stalked you in the dark usually ended up dead by morning. The question was how long he should wait before teaching them that lesson. The harassment continued for 2 weeks. Every day brought new accidents and malfunctions that targeted Taeho. His training equipment broke at dangerous moments. His class schedules were mysteriously changed, causing him to miss important lectures. Chemical spills appeared in his path during obstacle courses. Other human cadets began to notice the pattern. They whispered among themselves about the obvious targeting, but nobody dared to speak openly. The alien faculty continued to treat each incident as coincidence or human clumsiness. Dr. Han Yu-jin, the Academy's medical officer, treated Taeho's injuries 3 times in 10 days. Minor cuts from broken equipment, a mild chemical burn from a spilled cleaning agent, and bruised ribs from a training machine that activated at the wrong moment. "These incidents are not normal," Dr. Han told him during his 3rd visit to the medical bay. "In my 5 years here, I have never seen so many accidents happen to one person." "Maybe I am just unlucky," Taeho replied. Dr. Han shook her head. She was a small woman with gentle hands and worried eyes. "I have been documenting everything. The pattern is too obvious to ignore." Meanwhile, Veltar and his companions grew bolder. They began following Taeho through the corridors, making loud comments about weak humans and Death World pretenders. They crowded him during meals, forcing him to eat at smaller tables away from other students. The situation reached its breaking point on a Tuesday during lunch period. The main cafeteria was crowded with hundreds of cadets from dozens of different species. Conversations filled the air in multiple languages while the serving machines dispensed food to long lines of students. Taeho sat at a small table near the back with Minho and 2 other human cadets. Park Jiwoo was a quiet engineering student from Mars Colony. Lee So-young was studying communications and came from the Luna settlements. They were discussing their afternoon tactical studies class when the cafeteria suddenly grew quiet. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the serving machines seemed to pause. Veltar and his 6 companions had entered the room. The 7 aliens walked slowly between the tables, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Other cadets pressed back against the walls, making space for them to pass. They stopped directly in front of Taeho's table. "Still here, Death World human?" Veltar asked, his voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "I thought you would have learned your lesson by now." Taeho continued eating his meal without looking up. "Perhaps the accidents have not been serious enough," said Kordak, the stone-skinned Gorvani. "Maybe we need to arrange something more educational." The other 5 aliens laughed. Their various sounds of amusement created a threatening chorus that made several smaller species in the room whimper with fear. "Look at me when I speak to you, human," Veltar demanded. Taeho slowly raised his eyes to meet the Krillian's yellow gaze. "I hear you. Good. Then you will understand when I tell you that this academy is not for weaklings from primitive worlds. Real warriors trained here long before humans crawled out of their caves. Is that so? Taeho asked mildly. Veltar leaned closer, his claws scraping against the table surface. Your species has no business pretending to be soldiers. You are farmers and merchants, nothing more. You should return to your little farms and leave war to those who understand it. Around the cafeteria, alien cadets nodded in agreement. Many of them had grown up hearing that humans were the weak newcomers to galactic civilization. Only a few species looked uncomfortable with the confrontation. Hey, said a small voice from the corner of the room. That is not fair. Everyone turned to look. Oh Seo-jun, a first-year human cadet who looked even younger than his 16 years, had stood up from his table. He was thin and nervous-looking, but his face showed determination. Humans have just as much right to be here as anyone else, Seo-jun continued. We passed the same entrance exams as everyone. Veltar's head swiveled toward the young cadet like a predator spotting prey. What did you say, little human? I said, it is not fair, Seo-jun repeated, his voice shaking but still defiant. You cannot judge all humans based on prejudice. The cafeteria held its breath. Several alien cadets moved away from Seo-jun's table, not wanting to be nearby when violence erupted. Veltar walked across the room with slow, deliberate steps. His claws clicked against the floor with each movement. The other 6 aliens followed behind him like a pack of hunters. You think I am being unfair? Veltar asked, stopping directly in front of the trembling young human. Yes, Seo-jun whispered. Then let me show you what fair looks like. Veltar's clawed hand shot out faster than most eyes could follow. It struck Seo-jun in the chest with tremendous force, lifting the young cadet off his feet and sending him flying backward across the room. Seo-jun hit the far wall with a sickening crack and crumpled to the floor, motionless. Dr. Han Yu-jin immediately rushed to his side, her medical scanner beeping frantically as she checked his vital signs. 3 broken ribs and internal bleeding, she announced, her voice tight with anger. He needs emergency surgery. The alien cadets in the room laughed and cheered. Some of them applauded Veltar's demonstration of power. Others simply nodded approval, as if the violence had been necessary and justified. But Taeho was no longer sitting at his table. He stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. The sound cut through the cheers and laughter like a knife. That was a mistake, he said quietly. Veltar turned toward him, still grinning with satisfaction. What was a mistake, Death World pretender? Hurting him. The Krillian laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Are you going to do something about it, human? Will you challenge me to single combat? Taeho looked down at Seo-jun's motionless form, then at Dr. Han working frantically to stabilize his injuries. He thought about Minho's frightened face and all the other human cadets who had been bullied and hurt over the years. Yes, he said. The cafeteria erupted in excited whispers. Single combat challenges were legal at the academy, but they were rare. Most cadets were too smart to risk their lives in official duels. Veltar's grin widened. Excellent. I accept your challenge. Wait, said Threx, a tall Zephyrian with blue skin and lightning-fast reflexes. Why should it be single combat? This human has insulted all 7 of us with his arrogance. True, agreed Malneth, the telepathic Mindari whose large brain case pulsed with soft light. His entire species needs to learn respect. Veltar nodded slowly. You raise a good point. Very well, human. Your challenge is accepted, but the terms are changed. You will face all 7 of us together. Gasps echoed through the cafeteria. 7 against 1 combat was technically legal, but it was essentially a death sentence. No cadet in academy history had ever survived such odds. The faculty must approve. Such a challenge, said Commander Choi, who had appeared at the cafeteria entrance. The 3 alien instructors who had been watching from the serving area stepped forward. They whispered among themselves for a moment, then nodded. The challenge is approved, announced Instructor Vexelos, a tall creature with silver skin and multiple eyes. Combat will take place in the main arena tomorrow at 1400 hours. Veltar looked supremely satisfied. I hope you spend tonight writing letters to your family, human. They will want to know how you died. Taeho said nothing. He walked over to where Dr. Han was preparing Seo-jun for transport to the medical bay. Will he live? He asked quietly. Yes, but barely, she replied. A few centimeters lower and that blow would have stopped his heart. Taeho nodded once, then turned and walked out of the cafeteria. Behind him, excited conversations erupted as cadets began discussing the upcoming fight. Many were already planning to watch the spectacle of 7 aliens destroying 1 human. None of them understood what they were actually going to see. News of the 7 against 1 combat challenge spread through Kepler Station like wildfire. By morning, every cadet and instructor knew about the fight. Betting pools opened in the dormitories. Most odds heavily favored the aliens. Taeho spent the night sitting by his window looking out at the stars. Minho tried to convince him to withdraw the challenge, but Taeho remained silent. He had made his decision. You cannot win against 7 of them, Minho said desperately. They are all advanced fighters. Veltar alone has won 12 single combat matches. The others are just as dangerous. Maybe, Taeho replied quietly. Maybe. They will kill you in the first minute. Taeho turned away from the window. On Hadron, Prime, I once fought a pack of shadow wolves. 15 of them surrounded me in a crystal cave with no way out. What happened? I lived. They did not. Minho stared at him with worried eyes. Shadow wolves are just animals. These aliens are trained soldiers with weapons and tactics. Animals fight to survive, Taeho said. Soldiers fight to win. There is a difference. The next day arrived, gray and cold. The Academy's artificial weather system had created an overcast sky to match the serious mood of the station. At noon, cadets began gathering in the main arena. The huge circular space could hold 3,000 spectators in raised seating that surrounded a combat floor 50 meters wide. Advanced force fields protected the audience from weapons and energy blasts during fights. By 1330, every seat was filled. Cadets from dozens of species crowded together, talking excitedly in multiple languages. Many held recording devices to capture what they expected to be a historic beating. In the premium seating section, the alien faculty members sat together. Most looked pleased at the opportunity to demonstrate alien superiority over human arrogance. Only Commander Choi appeared worried, his hands clenched tightly in his lap. Dr. Han Yu-jin sat in the medical section with emergency equipment, though she doubted it would help much. 7 against 1 combat rarely left survivors. At 1355, the 7 alien challengers entered the arena through the east gate. They walked in formation, their various forms of natural armor and weaponry glinting under the bright lights. Veltar led them, his chitinous plates gleaming like black metal. Behind him came Kordak, the stone-skinned Gorvani whose fists could punch through starship hulls. Threx moved with liquid grace, his blue skin crackling with bioelectric energy. Malneth's oversized brain case pulsed with telepathic power, while Hiska, the acid-spitting Toxari, tested his chemical weapons on the arena floor. The shapeshifter Morphin flickered between different forms, showing off his abilities. Finally, Zix-43 made mechanical whirring sounds as his cybernetic enhancements activated. The crowd cheered loudly as the 7 aliens spread out across their half of the combat floor. They looked confident and deadly, like a pack of apex predators preparing to hunt. At exactly 1400 hours, the west gate opened. Kim Taeho walked onto the combat floor alone. He wore standard Academy combat gear, flexible armor, protective helmet, and basic weapons belt. Nothing special or advanced. He looked small and ordinary compared to the 7 powerful aliens waiting for him. The crowd noise faded to whispers, then to complete silence. Combat rules are as follows, announced the automated arena system. Victory is achieved by rendering all opponents unable to continue fighting. Lethal force is permitted. Medical assistance will be provided after combat ends. Combatants, prepare for battle. Veltar raised his clawed hands above his head, drawing another cheer from the alien spectators. Today you learn the price of human arrogance, he called across the arena. Taeho said nothing. He stood perfectly still in the center of his half of the floor, his eyes closed, his breathing slow and steady. What is he doing? Whispered Park Jiwoo from the human section of the audience. I think he is preparing, Minho replied, though he sounded uncertain. Instructor Namdaun leaned forward in her seat. She had seen that stance before, during her Special Forces training. It was the pose of someone entering a combat trance, shutting out fear and distraction to focus entirely on survival. Combat begins in 10 seconds, the arena system announced. The 7 aliens spread out in a wide arc, planning to attack from multiple directions simultaneously. It was a perfect tactical formation that would overwhelm any normal opponent in seconds. 5 seconds. Taeho opened his eyes. For just a moment, something flickered in their depths, something cold and predatory that made several spectators in the front rows unconsciously lean back in their seats. Combat begins now. The arena erupted in motion. All 7 aliens launched themselves forward at the same instant, moving with the coordinated precision of a military unit. Veltar came straight ahead while the others curved around to attack from the sides and behind. It should have been over in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. Taeho moved. He did not run or dodge or try to escape. He launched himself directly at the largest opponent, Kordak, whose stone-like skin was supposed to be completely impenetrable. The collision echoed through the arena like a thunderclap. Kordak had expected to absorb the human's desperate charge with his natural armor, then crush him with overwhelming strength. Instead, Taeho's shoulder strike hit him with the force of a meteor impact. The sound of cracking stone filled the air as fault lines appeared across Kordak's chest armor. The massive Gorvani staggered backward, his yellow eyes wide with shock and pain. The crowd fell silent. On Hadron Prime, Taeho had learned to fight crystal bears whose skin could deflect plasma cannons. He had developed muscles dense enough to survive in gravity, 3 times stronger than galactic standard. His bones had been strengthened by years of surviving impacts that would kill most creatures. But the 7 aliens did not know this yet. Threx recovered from his surprise first and attacked with lightning speed, his bioelectric powers crackling around his fists. His punches were faster than the eye could follow, each one carrying enough energy to stop a human heart. Taeho caught both fists in his hands. Threx's electricity surged through the contact point, blue sparks dancing between their joined hands. The Zephyrian's face twisted with effort as he poured more power into the attack. Nothing happened. On Hadron Prime, lightning storms could last for days, filling the air with electrical discharge. Taeho had learned to move through them without protection, letting his body absorb and channel the energy harmlessly. He squeezed. Threx's wrist bones snapped with sounds like breaking twigs. The Zephyrian screamed and fell to his knees, his bioelectric systems shorting out in showers of sparks. 2 down in 15 seconds. The remaining 5 aliens suddenly looked much less confident. Malneth stepped forward, his brain case glowing, with intense telepathic energy. Invisible mental force slammed into Taeho's mind, trying to paralyze his thoughts and overwhelm his consciousness with alien terror. The psychic attack struck and rebounded harmlessly. On Hadron Prime, Taeho had spent months hiding in psychic dead zones where mental parasites could not reach him. His mind had learned to exist in complete isolation, protected by barriers that even he did not fully understand. Malneth's large eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. No organic mind can resist level 7 telepathy. You have never met a human from a death world, Taeho replied quietly. Then he moved forward, and Malneth discovered exactly what that meant. What followed was not a fight. It was a demonstration of what evolution could create when survival demanded perfection. Malneth tried to retreat while maintaining his telepathic assault, but Taeho moved across the arena floor faster than the alien could process. A single strike to the Mindari's enlarged skull sent him crashing to the ground, his psychic abilities flickering and dying like a broken light. The arena had fallen completely silent. 3,000 spectators watched in stunned disbelief as their assumptions about human weakness crumbled before their eyes. Hiska, the acid-spitting Toxari, opened his throat sacs and expelled a stream of corrosive chemicals that could dissolve starship armor in seconds. The acid struck Taeho directly in the chest and face. It ran off him like water. On Hadron Prime, acid rain fell for months during the chemical seasons. The atmosphere itself was caustic enough to strip paint from metal. Taeho's skin had adapted to environments that would kill most galactic species in minutes. Hisoka stared at his ineffective attack, his reptilian features twisted with confusion. How is this possible? My acid dissolves everything organic. Not everything, Taeho said. He grabbed the Toxari by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Hisoka weighed over 200 kilograms, but Taeho held him with one hand as if he were made of paper. The alien's acid sacs ruptured under the pressure. Green chemicals spilled across the arena floor, eating through the reinforced metal like it was soft cheese. Hisoka gurgled once and went limp, 4 down. Morphin, the shapeshifter, began cycling through different forms rapidly, trying to find one that could challenge the human. He became a massive predator with razor claws, then a writhing mass of tentacles, then something that looked like living metal with bladed edges. None of it mattered. On Hadron Prime, Taeho had hunted mimic beasts that could perfectly copy any creature they encountered. He had learned to see past deception and strike at the reality beneath illusion. No matter what form Morphin took, his core remained the same. Taeho found that core and hit it with precision that made the shapeshifter's abilities irrelevant. Morphin collapsed in his original form, his shapeshifting organs permanently damaged. Zix-43, the cybernetically enhanced Technari, activated every weapon system in his mechanical body. Plasma cannons extended from his arms. Missile launchers opened on his shoulders and energy shields flickered to life around his torso. He fired everything at once. The arena floor exploded in a storm of energy and shrapnel. Smoke and flame filled the air while emergency systems activated to protect the spectators from the overflow of destructive power. When the smoke cleared, Taeho stood unharmed in the center of a crater. On Hadron Prime, he had survived plasma storms that could vaporize mountains. He had walked through explosions that leveled cities. His reflexes were fast enough to dodge between individual energy bolts. Zix-43's targeting systems could not track something that moved like Taeho moved. His weapons could not harm something that had survived what Taeho had survived. The human crossed the distance between them in a single leap that carried him 15 meters through the air. His fist struck the Technari's central processing core with the force of an artillery shell. Sparks erupted from Zix-43's cybernetic systems as critical components failed throughout his body. The alien collapsed, his mechanical enhancements smoking and sparking. 5 down. Only Veltar remained standing. The Krillian leader looked around at his fallen companions, his yellow eyes wide with an emotion he had never experienced before. Fear. This is impossible, he whispered. You are just human, just soft flesh from a weak world. Taeho walked toward him slowly, his footsteps echoing in the absolute silence of the arena. That is where you made your mistake. You think Hadron Prime is weak because humans chose to live there. What do you mean? We did not choose it. We were sent there as punishment, as exiles, as people nobody wanted. Taeho's voice carried clearly through the arena's sound system. And we did not just survive. We thrived. Veltar backed away, his claws scraping against the metal floor. Your world cannot be that dangerous. Nothing could create strength like this. Hadron Prime kills 90% of everything that tries to live there, Taeho continued. The gravity is 3 times galactic standard. The storms carry acid and radiation. The native animals evolved to hunt starships. The alien spectators listened in growing horror as they began to understand what they were really seeing. The plants are carnivorous and intelligent, Taeho said. The weather changes from boiling to freezing in hours. The ground itself tries to eat you in some regions. Veltar's back hit the arena wall. There was nowhere left to retreat. And humans not only live there, Taeho continued, now standing, directly in front of the terrified alien. We build cities there. We raise children there. We call it home. Please, Veltar whispered. I yield. I surrender the challenge. Taeho shook his head. You started this when you hurt Oh Seojun. You continued it with every human you bullied and tormented. This ends when you cannot hurt anyone else. Wait, I can explain. Taeho's punch lifted Veltar completely off his feet and sent him flying across the arena. The Krillian hit the far wall with bone-crushing force and slid to the ground. His natural armor cracked and broken. He did not get up. The arena remained silent. For long moments, 3,000 spectators sat frozen in their seats, trying to process what they had witnessed. Then, slowly, a single human cadet began to clap. Minho stood up in the human section, tears streaming down his face, applauding the impossible victory. Other human cadets joined him, then Park Ji-woo and Lee So-young, then more and more. But it was not just humans applauding. Alien cadets from smaller, weaker species began to stand and clap as well. Species that had been bullied and intimidated by the Superior Seven for years suddenly found their voices. The applause grew louder and louder until it filled the entire arena with thunderous approval. In the medical section, Dr. Han Yu-jin spoke rapidly into her communicator, calling for emergency medical teams. All 7 aliens would need intensive care, but they would live. In the faculty section, the alien instructors sat in stunned silence. Their fundamental assumptions about species hierarchy had just been destroyed by one human cadet. Only Commander Choi seemed unsurprised. He stood and saluted as Taeho walked toward the exit, recognizing a fellow warrior who had done what needed to be done. At the arena exit, Taeho paused and turned back toward the crowd. His voice carried clearly through the sound system. Anyone else who thinks humans are weak is welcome to test that theory, he said. But remember what you learned here today. We do not come from a gentle world. Then he walked out of the arena, leaving behind a station full of beings who would never underestimate humans again. The age of human respect in the galaxy had begun with 7 broken bodies and one simple truth: survival makes you stronger than comfort ever could. The medical bay had never seen anything like it. 7 alien cadets filled the intensive care units, each with injuries that defied easy explanation. Dr. Han Yu-jin worked alongside 3 alien medical specialists, all of them struggling to understand how organic muscle and bone could cause such devastating damage. Kordak lay unconscious with fracture lines running through his supposedly indestructible stone skin. His natural armor, which had protected him in dozens of battles, was cracked like an eggshell. Threx's bioelectric systems had completely shut down. His wrist bones were shattered, but more concerning was the way his internal energy generation organs had been damaged. He might never produce electricity again. Malneth's enlarged brain case showed severe trauma. The telepathic centers that gave his species their mental powers had been compressed by the impact. Even if he recovered, his psychic abilities would likely be permanently reduced. Hiska's acid sacs were destroyed, along with the specialized organs that produced his chemical weapons. The Toxari would need months of surgery to repair the internal damage. Morphin's shape-shifting abilities had been permanently damaged. His cellular structure, once fluid and adaptable, was now locked into his original form. The trauma had destroyed the genetic mechanisms that allowed his transformations. Zix-43 required complete cybernetic reconstruction. Most of his enhanced systems had been destroyed by the precise strike to his processing core. The Technari engineers working on him whispered among themselves about the surgical accuracy of the damage. Veltar was in the worst condition. His natural armor was shattered in 17 places. 3 of his 4 hearts had stopped beating during the fight. The medical team had managed to restart them, but permanent damage was likely. "How is this possible?" asked Dr. Kethran, the chief alien medical officer. He was a tall, thin creature with multiple arms and extensive knowledge of combat injuries. "These are not wounds from weapons or technology. This is organic damage." Dr. Han finished updating Veltar's medical chart and looked up at her colleague. "That is exactly what makes it so frightening. This was not done with advanced equipment or special training. This is what a human body can do when it has been shaped by a truly dangerous environment." One human did this to 7 trained warriors. One human from a death world, Dr. Han corrected. "There is a difference." Word of the fight had spread beyond Kepler Station within hours. Military academies across the galaxy received detailed reports of the combat. Alien commanders who had dismissed humans as weak newcomers suddenly began asking questions about human capabilities. Commander Choi stood in his office, speaking with Admiral Zhao Weiming via holographic communication. The Admiral was the highest-ranking human in the Galactic Defense Force, based on the core world of New Beijing. "The implications are staggering," Admiral Zhao said, his weathered face thoughtful. "If one untrained cadet from a colony world can defeat 7 advanced aliens, what does that say about human potential?" "I have been reviewing our recruitment records," Commander Choi replied. "Most human military candidates come from core worlds, with safe environments and comfortable living conditions. We have been ignoring the colony worlds because they seem primitive. That was clearly a mistake. I am ordering a full review of our selection criteria. We need to identify other worlds like Hadron Prime and recruit from their populations." "There is another issue," Commander Choi continued. "The alien species are beginning to ask questions. Some are concerned about human capabilities. Others are interested in learning our training methods." Admiral Zhao nodded slowly. "Fear and respect often look the same from the outside. Make sure we handle this carefully." In the days following the fight, the atmosphere at Kepler Station changed completely. The alien cadets who had once dismissed humans as weak now watched them with careful attention. Conversations stopped when humans entered rooms. Training exercises were conducted with new levels of respect and caution. The human cadets noticed the change immediately. Park Ji-woo found that his alien lab partners actually listened to his suggestions during engineering projects. Lee So-young discovered that communication protocols she had developed were being studied by senior instructors. Minho was approached by 3 different alien study groups, all wanting to understand human problem-solving methods. For the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like his ideas mattered. But the most significant changes occurred at the highest levels of the academy. Instructor Vexelos called an emergency faculty meeting 3 days after the fight. The silver-skinned alien looked uncomfortable as he addressed his colleagues. "We need to revise our evaluation protocols for human cadets," he announced. "Our current testing methods are clearly inadequate for measuring their actual capabilities." The other alien instructors shifted nervously in their seats. Many of them had built their careers on the assumption that their species were naturally superior to humans. "What do you propose?" asked Professor Milthax, an elderly creature with crystalline features. "We need to understand what makes humans from dangerous worlds different from those from safe environments," Vexelos replied. "Our databases contain almost no information about colony worlds like Hadron Prime. Perhaps we should invite other humans from similar backgrounds," suggested Dr. Yelnara, the Academy's psychology specialist. "If Kim Tae-ho's abilities are representative of his world's population, we have severely underestimated human potential." The meeting continued for hours as the faculty grappled with the implications of what they had witnessed. By the end, they had authorized a complete review of human admission requirements and established a new research program to study Death World adaptations. Meanwhile, requests for information about human training methods began arriving from military academies across the galaxy. The Altarian War College wanted to exchange instructors. The Vegan Defense Institute offered to share advanced combat techniques in return for human survival training protocols. Most surprising of all was a formal inquiry from the Krillian High Command. Veltar's own species wanted to understand how humans had developed such effective combat abilities. 2 weeks after the fight, Tae-ho was summoned to Commander Choi's office. He found the older man reviewing reports from across the galaxy. "How are you adjusting to your new reputation?" Commander Choi asked. "People stare at me," Tae-ho replied. "Some seem afraid, others seem curious. Both reactions are understandable. You have changed how this galaxy views humanity." Commander Choi activated a holographic display showing military recruitment statistics. "Human enlistment applications have increased by 400% since news of your fight spread. Young people from colony worlds are specifically requesting military service. Is that good or bad? That depends on how we handle it." Commander Choi leaned back in his chair. The Galactic Defense Force is offering you early graduation and immediate officer training. They want to study your combat methods and develop new training programs. What about my education here? You have already learned the most important lesson. This academy can teach, Commander Choi said with a slight smile. Respect is earned through action, not words. That evening, Taeho sat in the academy's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The same view that had seemed peaceful when he arrived now looked different. Those distant suns warmed worlds, where humans lived and worked and raised families under conditions that would terrify most galactic species. Minho found him there, along with several other human cadets who had become regular companions since the fight. So what happens now? Park, Jiwoo asked. Everything has changed, but we still have 2 years of academy training left. Now we prove that I am not unique, Taeho replied. Humans from dangerous worlds are not rare. We just never had the chance to show what we could do. Lee So-young nodded, thoughtfully. The galaxy spent centuries assuming we were weak because we came from primitive colonies. They never considered that surviving on those colonies might make us stronger. My cousin lives on Titan's Reach, Minho added. That world has gravity storms and crystal predators. He always seemed tough when he visited us, but I thought it was just because he worked in mining. How many human worlds are like Hadron Prime? Park Ji-woo wondered. How many humans have been hiding capabilities like yours? Taeho looked around at his friends, seeing new understanding in their eyes. They were beginning to grasp the larger implications of what had happened in the arena. Thousands of worlds, he said quietly. Millions of humans who learned to survive in places that would kill most species. We are not the weak newcomers the galaxy thought we were. We are the survivors, Lee So-young said. We are the adapted, added Park Ji-woo. We are the children of death worlds, Minho concluded. Outside the observation lounge windows, the stars continued their ancient dance, but now they illuminated a galaxy where humanity's true potential was finally beginning to be understood. The Superior Seven had intended to put humans in their place. Instead, they had shown the universe that humanity's place was at the top of the evolutionary ladder. On distant worlds, human children looked up at those same stars and dreamed of joining the military. They carried in their genes the legacy of survival, adaptation, and strength that came from calling the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy home. The age of human military dominance had begun, not we.